Alright, I want to show you in this video how to add those final highlights and nuances to your acrylic portrait. I've been working on this 24 by 30 acrylic portrait of 30 people for a long time now, and it's time to bring the portrait home. So I'm going to be putting in some nice titanium white highlights. We'll be putting in some maybe a little bit of Indian yellow and some other highlights mixed with some warm colors. We're going to be putting in a little more shadow work, but mostly I want to show you highlights and how to add those final highlights to really give the painting a little extra oomph. So let's do that. We'll dive in here and get a little bit of matte medium on my palette. And let's grab the round brush. And then we'll go ahead and grab some titanium white. I should have a little bit of fresh titanium white I can work from here, pretty close to that. And what we're going to do is mix that with some matte medium just to get it kind of fluid. And what we want to do is just put in some highlights in some key places because the sunlight is shining on top of their heads, and that's where you're going to see these highlights. We'll start with this left-hand side, and we're going to add a highlight here to the woman right here. So just adding highlight on her forehead. Now we might need to blend it in. We could do that by adding a little bit of Indian yellow and pyrrole orange off to the side. So Indian yellow and then pyrrole orange. And we add just a little bit of those two colors. We can introduce it into what we have here. And that way then we can blend this into the rest of the skin tones on our forehead. Develop a little bit of a nuance. Is that white is pretty stark. It's pretty bold. And we just kind of have to blend that into the rest of it. Blending can be a little bit of a challenge, and so can skin tones. So I do want to give you a free gift. I have a free gift called Fix Muddy Skin Tones in Your Acrylic Portrait. And that is a free PDF guide you can download. You can print that out, set it up next to your canvas wherever you're working, your easel, and it'll show you how to mix skin tones more confidently so you don't encounter muddy skin tones. And if you do have muddy skin tones, it'll show you how to correct that chalkiness, how to get your skin tones looking good again so you can feel confident about your portrait and finish it well. You know, if you do portraits on commission, or you do them for gifts, or you just want to paint your grandchildren, it's nice to know that you have the skin tones dialed in and they're looking realistic and natural. And I can help you with that. So get my free PDF guide. You'll find it in the top link of the description of the video, also in the pinned comment as well. So check that out, download it. My gift to you just for watching this video today. Now I'm adding a highlight to her nose, and again we want to warm it up with just a little bit of Indian yellow. Let's zoom in just a bit more so you can see what's going on here. And yeah, that little bit helps, and that's really the part of her face that's going to be the brightest. That and the highlight on her forehead. So we want to make sure that we capture that. We might get a little bit of a highlight right on her eyeglasses area as well. Now, you can also put in a little bit of a highlight on this little girl next to her. Just add that titanium white to the top of her head. We add a little bit of titanium white as well to the guy here. So let's just zoom up there for a moment. Add that to his forehead, and that really, again, gives that just a little extra oomph in the contrast. And it really helps all of that to stand out. Now his nose can get a little bit of a highlight as we just add it in a couple of strategic areas on his nose, kind of in the nasal bone area. And then, like I said, on his forehead, maybe just a little bit on the eyebrow ridge, but we don't want to overdo it. It already has a highlight kind of shown there. Now we'll use this warmer highlight that's got some Indian yellow mixed in. We'll show you that. And then we'll put that on the boy down below. And just add a little bit of that to his nose. Yeah, it's got to get a little bit yellower. So add a little more yellow to that mix and put that on his nose, because his skin tones are a little bit more yellowish than Dad's. So we put that in. Highlight on the neck area as well. Refine some of those areas where we had some bleed out on the color. And we can also add a little highlight here to the girl's forehead, and she's got kind of lighter skin tones, it looks like, than her brother. A little more pale, so we just want to go ahead and add a little bit of a highlight to her forehead there. Then the nose can catch a little bit of light too. Cheek as well. Add a little more highlight to the boy down here. He was having a little bit of trouble holding a pose for the camera. You know what that's like. Been to family gatherings and photo shoots where you just always have that child that can't hold still and can't smile for the camera. That would be this boy here. He's kind of making some faces, and I actually had to adjust his face on Photoshop. This was the best one I could get of him. That's just kind of funny, I guess. They'll laugh about it later, because he probably is old enough now that he can hold for a pose. It seems to be a certain thing that they do at a certain age group, and then they grow out of it. All right, let's move over to the right, and we're going to just lighten up this guy's forehead as well. I want to make sure I've got, almost pure titanium white here. Get that right color on his forehead. Just really bring that highlight out. And then also on the nose as well. Again, that nose is so important to really get that highlight right. You can zoom in a little bit closer here. Be able to see what this looks like as we add these highlights in. I'll add a highlight to this guy over here, to his face. You can get a highlight on his nose. Trying to keep that paint fluid so it's not too thick on here, but you almost have to have a little bit of thickness for that white to really stand out. Put a little bit of a highlight on his neck as well. All right, we'll keep moving along here. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit. Now we'll go ahead and add a highlight to her face here. We'll go and add something to her nose and the cheek. Maybe just a little bit of her chin, because she kind of has a more prominent chin, it looks like. Okay, and then this girl over here, we'll add, or young woman I should say, we'll add a highlight to her hair. Now we'll add a highlight, and I just need to spray my palette quick because the paint's just a little thick. Okay, we add a highlight to, let's see, this guy back here. Just the top of his forehead. And that should help just to have that in. Changing the lighting a little bit from the reference photo because he wasn't actually in the original photo shoot, and we just kind of combined him in from a different photo. So the lighting is just a little bit different. Okay, we get a little bit of the chin, the highlight on that. Excuse me. Now let's add a highlight to this guy down here. And really, yeah, we don't have a strong highlight on him, but we do on his son. So we'll put that on his face here, just getting a little bit of the lighter flesh tone there. And definitely on the neck area. Just go down a little bit so you can see his whole face, and we add a little bit of a highlight on his clothing, and then on the arm below, you can see, move it in just a little bit to the right, and we add a highlight to the baby here on the forehead. That's important. A little bit on the hand and the wrist of the baby. Right there. Mother's arm on her hand. Forearm ever so slightly. And you can see that now as we move over. Just add a little bit of a highlight to her forearm area. And I still need to get this paint just a bit more fluid. Okay, now let's keep on moving along. Zoom out just a little bit more, and then let's move over to the matriarch of the family. She's the one commissioning the portrait, and we'll go ahead and add a highlight to a portion of her forehead here, just getting a little bit of titanium white there on that part. And we want to get a little bit of this highlight on her nose. Add that. Chin is a little darker, so maybe just a sliver on the top. Okay, I think that'll be good. Now this woman here has a pretty strong highlight on her forehead. Make sure we get that in there. I don't want the paint to be too thick because I really don't want there to be a bunch of brush texture. I just want to brush that out a little bit. She can have a little bit on the top of her hair too as well. Okay, let's see what else. A bit of a highlight right here now on this young lady. Just going to move it along. Can get the camera to move where I need it to. Add a bit of titanium white right on top of her cheek area. And on the nose as well. Maybe a little bit on the top of the chin, and then a bit just right at the top of the forehead. Okay, now we're going to move on here to this next one there. We get a little bit of a highlight on her face. And actually I should have a little bit on the guy back here. Smooth the camera up a bit. And he can get just a little bit of a highlight on this left-hand side of his face. Yep, just a little bit there. And then maybe a little highlight on the tip of his nose. Spray the paint a little bit more. Okay, let's go ahead and get a highlight now on this woman down here. Just on the top of her forehead. bit on the cheek area. And then maybe a little bit on the nose. That's good. Now we'll put a little bit of a highlight over here on the lady on the right, which I think is the grandmother. Highlight on the nose. Add just a little bit of yellow to it. Let's warm that up. And maybe a little bit of pink. Add a little bit of pyro orange to the color, and we'll add a highlight to the cheek area as well. We will have to get a bit of blending in on the bottom of that nose. Do that with a little pyro orange. Just kind of blend that in. That's good. And I just want to add a bit of a highlight to the chin area, just on that wrinkle. And then maybe just a touch on her forehead on the wrinkle there. And if, last but not least, we do want a nice white highlight on her hair. So go ahead and add that to the top. Just really brighten all of that up. And that gives it just a little more dimension and volume. Oh, and this guy should have it on his hat too. Let's move up there. Just on the top of his hat, we need to get a little white there, and that'll help to refine the form of his head against the background too. Put a little bit of white on his shoulder as well. And then you don't want to miss this little girl down here. So we get a little bit of highlight on her hair. A couple of key spots. Maybe on her nose. Just a bit on her cheek. And her shirt, of course. Oh, the grandmother's got to get some white on the top of her clothing as well. I almost forgot. So we'll do that. Add a little bit of white there. There we go. Just to really show that light that we would have coming from the sky. That's important. We can also add a few little wrinkles below as well, but we'll do that just a bit later. Now there's a boy down here. We want to make sure we capture that highlight on that nice blonde hair. So we'll go ahead and put in a little bit of texture on his hair just to capture that light. His arm needs to get a nice highlight on it too. We'll do that. Make sure we've got that rendered. Okay. I think overall that's really good. Lastly, let's just move over to this boy all the way down here, and we'll get a little bit of a highlight on the top of his foot. Some nice white right there. Just a little bit on the other part. All right, that's good. So I think I'm going to stop off here and say we're just about done with this painting. There are a few more final touches, but let's zoom out. You can see what this all looks like. So this is where we're at with it right now. Getting pretty close. Pretty close. So If you like this video, of course, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel for more videos like this. And check out my free tutorials at realisticacrylic.com. And of course, pick up my free PDF guide, Fix Muddy Skin Tones in Your Acrylic Portrait. Thank you so much for watching. God bless, and we'll talk to you soon.